So at this point, we will recess council to go into a public meeting regarding our budget bylaw.
With regards to any notices or written notices they've received on with regards to the public, so.
Okay. So there are no concerns, no questions to be answered. Then we shall reconvene council. And we have no delegations this evening. Resolution number 264-20, moved by Councillor Saphir, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that the minutes of the Council and Committee of the whole meeting held September 15th, 2020 be accepted as circulated. All those in favor? Thank you. Resolution number 265-20, moved by Councillor Morrow, Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Stafuric, that Council approve the purchase of 4 sets of turnout gear for the Scriber Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $2,280 per set, plus applicable taxes and freight, and the purchase of 4 protective hoods and 4 pairs of gloves in the amount of $132 per set, plus applicable taxes from A.J. Stone Company Limited. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Resolution number 266-20, moved by Councillor Stafuric, seconded by Councillor Mullins, that Council approve the purchase of 8 Bullard PX fire helmets from M&L Supply Fire and Safety in the amount of $484.47 per helmet, plus applicable taxes and freight. All those in favor? Thank you. Resolution number 267-20, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor McGrath, that bank debits paid out of the general bank account in the month of July 2020 in the amount of $40,610, and in the month of August 2020 in the amount of $35,259.47 be approved and ratified. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Resolution number 268-20, moved by Councillor Mullins, seconded by Councillor McGrath, that bylaw 35-2020, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for the sums required during the year 2020 for municipal operations be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Pardon me, Dave, are we live?
Yep.
Yes, we are.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Resolution number 269-20, moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Mullins, that bylaw 36-2020, being a bylaw to establish tax rates for the year 2020 for municipal purposes, be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted. All those in favor? So that will bring us to a close our council portion of the meeting. We'll go to the committee of the whole with Economic Development Department reports. Donovan, you're up.
So part of the economic development report is going over the major projects that we have going on in the area, as well as some insight as to their stage of completion, as well as some figures for us to know. Part of the capital construction with Fenway is that we are at around 90% completion or spending, and a result of the initial substantial completion meeting that was held made it deem not fit to fit the criterion of minimum 80% completion. Therefore, a list of deficits was created in site with number 10 architecture, and this deficiency list will be communicated to the township, as you can see in attachment 2 of this report. And these listed deficiencies, once they are approved to be signed off from Fenway with visual proof needing to be sent to number 10, then they will be delivering letters for approval of completion of substantial work, and mobilization for ownership of the property will then take effect. Part of the attachments as well in this report for the capital construction includes a communication piece from number 10, in which there were engineering controls that were outlined for us as a communication perspective, and with the pigeon issue that is going on at the Discovery Center right now, they have provided some options for us to possibly consider with regards to a long-term solution. So these items are brought forward to council to consider as a possible purchase in the future and for deliberation on behalf of the Economic Development Department. The second project in which we are looking at is the Skyline Atlantic contract for the interpretive planning and design. As of next week, we'll be going into the third milestone, in which we will be sending off a 75% completion towards the concept design and content for inside the visitor center and VR car. This will then be deliberated for a few more milestones until we are at a final design of 100% completion, which will take a course of a couple of months. And with their anticipated timeline with an updated schedule, they'll be looking to have this component finished by the end of June 2021. The A6 project phase 1 upgrades, with further communication today, we have learned that with Precambrian trails that we will be looking to move some aspects of the remaining milestone of the project, which is approximately 600 meters, to 2021. This has been communicated in our office as well as to our major funders, and they see no issue with this on their part in terms of carrying over funding for the following year. And the downtown revitalization project, we have spent around $53,416.25 with TBT thus far. This amounts to 79% completion of their project, and which additional portion of their contract will include project management and creation of the tender for the downtown revitalization project. And part of that is still being ongoing with the township prescriber, in which we're waiting the remaining structural drawings from Lesson Engineering in partnership with Jody Look Drive on landscaping.
Is that just for the pavilion, or is that the entire?
So the remaining structural is just for the pavilion,
Okay.
as it went through multiple drafts. So the final design portion.
Yeah. Okay.
When are you expecting that? No.
So I got communication from the landscape architect, and she's in consultation with Lesson Engineering. I got an email yesterday, apart from the original design into the design that's going forward right now. They anticipate that he's at around 50 to 60% done with those drawings now. So it's a matter of a week and a bit as they have communicated with me. So I'm keeping in contact with them to get that together so we can have tender package created and ready and put out there.
Yeah, because we gotta get that out there, yeah, for sure.
So when will the tender package be out for the structure?
That would be in the matter of when we get the structural drawings, then those get sent over to TBT, and then they do a final construction of the tender, and then that goes out for an X amount of weeks.
What kind of timeline are we looking at there?
That's a matter of us getting the remaining Lesson Engineering drawings, and they've communicated to me as of right now, a week to 2 weeks for the remaining 40% of the drawings.
Sorry, I missed that.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, thanks.
When you mentioned about the pavilion, like, other than that, what else would we be talking about?
The park down there,
The pavilion,
the park, the
splash
pad.
pad, okay, all that. like sort of all stuff.
Does that go all over
Yeah.
in one tender, or are those all separate?
Yep, so it'll be in the
It'll be
package.
one big.
Whatever isn't structural, in other words, I guess.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions for Dominic?
Those, I'm just looking at those spikes for the pigeons, like, and like where exactly would they go on?
So the three options that they gave, so the spike option that they gave is the cheapest option that there is there, but as we learned from the subway, they tend to roost on them still and make nests, so that's something I don't highly recommend. But they would be, if that was an option that was before, they would be going onto the exposed beams.
So it sounds like that's just a waste of money.
Yeah, so that was the lower end option that they sent to us, so they gave us a variety to look at for our consideration.
Any other questions?
So the downtown should be good to go construction by snow melting, right?
Yeah, so with the
Snow melt.
you're not gonna build anything.
No, that's what, like,
Yeah.
by May.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And the downtown, I've already talked with you, I guess, that the canopy portion of the downtown project
is going to be solid beams, gonna be pigeon proof.
We're gonna be making sure that we're not having any pigeon issues with that building.
Yeah. It's gonna be no roosting spots.
Yeah, that's there. In the pavilion, most of it is closed off. There is a bit of that front area where you're right, we'd have to be careful with that front porch area in that pavilion to make sure that they don't have any areas up there to roost. So
Well, I'm not quite sure.
Hopefully by then we have it under control.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure what the, if it's I-beam or anything, if it's I-beam, you want it closed in
Yep.
right from the start. Like,
Yep.
whether it be a solid beam, wood beam, I don't know. I haven't.
right,
Pigeon proof.
pigeon proof.
Yeah, but according to, from what I hear, the architect up there said this was pigeon proof too. The one on the highway.
Why would he think that?
Really?
No, I mean before it was made, before it was built.
Oh, before it was built.
He hasn't been back.
Yeah, and again, key elements again with the pavilion and downtown revitalization is again, as we're waiting for the final drawings to come in and it's tendered out. Key element right there is once we do get those tenders to make sure that they're within our project budget. But anyway, we have an appropriate amount of time should we have to again take a look at the scope for any cuts to make sure that doesn't interfere with that construction timeline at least in May next year.
So the concepts for the splash pad and the park are done.
Yes, definitely the park and everything else, that's all done. That's correct. Just the pavilion that
No,
needed all the engineering.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Don.
So,
very good report.
Excellent. We'll move on to recreation programmer reports. Comments, questions? All reopening. Yeah.
Where do you start?
Looks like we're going that way in a hurry, right?
Yeah, it's again, it's hard to say again where this, how bad this second wave, if it is going to be heading. Again, the numbers, are showing that they're growing, and that, obviously it makes us a bit nervous. At trying to determine whether we've hit the peak or we've yet to hit the peak.
Right.
I believe at this time, though, the way the Premier is talking, he's still going with the regional limitations. So I don't think our area within the catchment of the Thunder Bay District Health Unit will be affected much at this time. But yeah, how could that change? I don't think we really know, but I reiterate the Premier is saying he's going after the hot spots and he's leaving the rest of us alone for now.
But you have the hospitals lobbying for stage 2 all Ontario. So, I mean, we're definitely not take anything off the table.
Stage 2
It's,
would close.
We can
all
only continue
indoor-
on with what we're trying to do to reopen our facilities, and if at any time we're told to stop, I guess that's
Yeah.
what we do.
definitely not take anything off the table, like you say,
No.
yeah.
No, we're trying to open everything as safely as we can. We want to get everything
Well, not,
back to some sort of normalcy.
how is it that Terrace Bay has their fitness center open?
They have a full-time person to monitor it. We
And
don't.
that's the only reason?
It's also how you want to balance risk is also another component, right?
I mean, at least, at least one facility is open between the two communities.
Yep.
People from here can go there,
People here, and they don't want to go there, Doug. We don't want them to go there, but until we can
Yeah.
safely open it under the health unit bylaws,
They did somehow.
because they've got a person in that facility to monitor the number of people coming in there.
And that's
And
the
if
only reason.
There's different factors too. I mean, in terms of consideration, if we're going to use our weight room as an example, it's really small, in terms of space. The equipment is definitely not spaced, 2 meters apart. Everything is jam-packed together.
Right.
If people are exercising, they're not going to be wearing masks. So, this is where it's getting complicated. We're going to be allowing people to go in and they're exercising, they're not going to be wearing masks, and there's a potential for them to be, close to each other. So what we put together was, to say a limitation of maybe we'll allow 3 people in at once. That being said, we don't have anyone to sit there and monitor it. We're going to put a sign on the door saying
Right.
3 people maximum. If we have cameras that can check for us to do spot monitoring to make sure that is being followed. But the other components too is it's so small and it doesn't really have that a good air exchange. So if people are going to be breathing in that room, that air is going to collect there. So all those factors considered, it's a complicated one to reopen. It's again, then how do you balance risk, right? If you know that there are some problems, and in order to get there, you want to fix those problems, we need to fix those problems. So we're looking at quotes for an air exchange, as well as seeing if we can fit in that air exchange into our COVID-related funding that we received. So we're doing that. We're now checking again for doors that can open again with the accessibility button as part of this too, right? You can hit the button and instead of actually touching doors and all. So we're trying to do a lot with that fund as well too when we're looking at reopening these facilities, if there's any sort of infrastructure that we can improve. But the bottom line is we want to make sure 100% that our staff are safe with regards to back to normal operations, and the public is safe, because should there be any situation where we have a problem, again, it's our insurance is there to cover it. But again, I'm working on the renewal, and there's a lot of questions I'm going through. They want to know how often the facilities are cleaned, if we're doing any operations that are changed because of COVID. So,
it's not so much, you mentioned that the staff is safe, but you just finished saying earlier there's no staff there. So really what you're talking about is the participants are safe,
yes, the
not
participants.
the staff.
Our
There's
staff,
no staff.
yeah, our staff will
The
only be.
facility's there, but at the moment, it's not usable.
Yeah, our staff will only be there to do the disinfecting, right, at the end of the day, and we just
Right.
need to make sure that the
Right.
procedures are correct for them
Sure.
to disinfect it appropriately.
Yeah.
So nothing's gonna happen here anyway, all these plants are okayed by Thunder Bay District Health Unit.
Yes, and we have this meeting scheduled. I believe it's next week. He's going to try to come in and look at the facilities. But that's again number one. When we were looking at reopening again, things that were outdoor things, the Scriber Beach, the ballpark, and all of that. Again, you don't need staff to go disinfect that. With regards to how people use it, we can post again warnings and all saying, hey, this is not being disinfected. Use it at your own risk. Use it responsibly. With any sort of indoor facilities, again, it becomes the issue of, again, being really careful with regards to what policies and all we put into place. It is a bit of uncharted territory with regards to any case law developing with regards to people, for instance, suing with regards to any COVID-related exposures to facilities. I still don't know how that exactly works, but the main thing is, again, I'm really looking at the liability involved when we're with regards to any procedures and all that we do to make sure that we're not caught in anything.
And it's not like we're trying to postpone things on purpose. You know, like you can mention all the other communities around, and I don't know how they do it or why they do it, because we are not responsible for their communities. We are responsible for our. We need to ensure that when we do it, that it's safe for everybody involved. And if that takes a little longer than other communities, personally, I think that's just the way it is. We're not trying to upset people. We're just trying to do things as safe as we know how to do them for everybody involved.
Yeah, can't be too careful, and the other point is this community has a lot of citizens that are in the high-risk group, so
That's right, yes.
that's got to be taken into consideration in a big way.
It's the bottom line, right, is when we're considering the decision to open something, you want to guarantee that you've done your best to make sure that you've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's.
Because if you haven't, they'll shut you down pretty quick. Right.
And it's, you also as, ultimately counsel and myself, right, as senior,
We are ultimately responsible for the decisions, you know.
Well, you got you got all the plans here right in front of us, and
Yeah.
the Thunder Bay District Health Unit is coming down next week. Hopefully, they're going to see them. We're going to be ready to when it. And I was watching the news yesterday, and they said with the 700 yesterday, they're expecting around the third week in October is when the second wave is going to peak.
Yeah.
So, like you said, nothing's off the table, but we might be a week or two longer.
Yeah.
But nothing's off the table. Everything's.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on those reports?
So is he getting out to the user groups of the arena to see
Yes.
the interest in who's going to be participating in
Yes.
things? Okay.
Absolutely. Again, with all of this, it's we're again planning to get things. Let's just say by November and all would be like a very good date to look at for things to be back to normal. Could have been earlier by October. We just have to see what's happening with the second wave. If this second wave is not going to be causing complications, then we know that we can start reopening a bit earlier. We have things in place.
Mhm.
Once we do our tour with the health unit, we'll know that whatever policies and all we have work best to keep our residents and staff safe.
And like Dave said, if Ford keeps provincial government keeps regional, then
We may be all right.
we could be. Yeah, exactly.
All right, the next three reports up are the Aqua reports for the water and wastewater operations treatment plant report summary and work order summary. Any questions on those reports? Yeah, go ahead, Lou.
If I was just wondering if it's getting. Well, I know everything's a lot better. Don't get me wrong there, but I mean, he's got the call-ins here at the water treatment plant. I was just wondering about them. If that's getting any better. I know the water's better. I know that, but you see their little,
Yeah, I haven't really compared them up.
but in all fairness, we haven't had a chance to talk to them because of this COVID. Like,
Yeah.
not the operators, but
Yeah.
and that's still on the table, but I mean, I totally understand why.
It's, I mean, a major thing for us, whether it's the water or wastewater, is that the infrastructure is still very much aging, and you have, again, equipment failing, far quicker than, you would expect it to do so. So that's, again, an ongoing challenge, and I know that the Director of Operations has been looking at, for instance, the dam at Cooks Lake in order to get that, again, observed. I'll also be joining the Director of Operations in a meeting tomorrow with Aqua to go over the wastewater plan. But again, this is a lot of infrastructure in place, and it's, again, aging. It's certainly a challenge to keep up with the fixes required. But again, when it comes to compliance, there's no choice about it.
That's right.
Just comply.
You got that right.
Any other questions? Then number 6 is the Director of Operations report concerning the medical center.
And this report here's recommendation that the Council of Potential Prescriber hire Werner Enterprises to clean the ductwork at the J.E. Strokes Medical Center for the sum of $3,267.12 plus tax. Director of Operations reached out to 3 companies for quotes to do the duct cleaning. This is, again, something that's probably a really good idea, considering, again, how we're dealing with COVID. We want to make sure that airflow is pretty clear. And this is this is a cost that I believe could be cleared with regards to our COVID funding. I have to make sure that I get that verified. But again, I believe it would be appropriate under that funding that we have, and we can probably get that covered under that.
So my only thing is the other 2 quotes give
Yep.
detail on exactly what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And the one that we're saying that is being recommended, it just is saying nothing.
Clean the duct.
Yeah, so what kind of quality are we getting? Are we doing this? It just didn't, reading them, this one didn't sit right with me compared to the other. And I've never heard of this company. I've heard of the other guy. Heard of Keating, obviously. They're through here all the time.
I felt the same way.
It wasn't
It's very good price, but
it wasn't sitting well with me either, so I went back and I talked to Red, and he phoned this company, and they're disinfecting too. They're going to do the same thing that I believe that company that you have open is going to be doing for the price that they've set.
They'll also, I was speaking with Brad as well, and he said they will also do the air breather at the same time.
Correct.
They'll open that up, and that, apparently it wasn't looking very good, so they'll open that up and service that at the same time.
And then just another thing, going forward, how does it get to the point that they get this dirty? Are we not changing the filters every year? Shouldn't regular stuff be done on our buildings, especially that building?
Yeah, I agree.
Should there not just be yearly checklist?
Yeah.
Change furnace filter at medical center.
I
Check.
agree with you.
and are the filters adequate?
Yeah.
For that facility?
Yeah.
I don't think we should be cheaping out on furnace filters in the medical center.
There's no air exchanger in that building. There's an air, well, what I understand, it's an air breather.
I just think,
filters the
had
air,
we done that in the past, maybe we wouldn't be
Sure.
scrambling to spend $3,500 to get them clean now, right?
So I guess our first priority is to get the ducts clean, right?
Yeah.
And then I really believe we need a report on what needs to be done to upgrade this system to improve it.
Yeah.
Because air quality in the medical center has to be a pretty big priority, I would think.
I would think.
And do we have a routine maintenance
Yeah,
schedule?
like
Yes.
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
simple like
Do we
that
have, exactly.
for all our buildings.
Yeah.
Like, what are the ducts like at like
I mean, I know
the rec center? Like,
I know at home I'm probably overkill, but I probably change my filter 6 times a year
Yeah.
in my furnace. I don't know if I'm overkill or not, but that's what I do.
Yeah, like when was the last time the filters were changed?
That's right. The,
And if it's not once a year, then that's a big problem.
a PM inspection, preventive maintenance, right?
Yeah.
So there's something to look into for sure. But I guess for now, do we agree with that quote and at least get the,
As long as they're going to do the same stuff that the other
Yeah.
groups said they're going to do.
Yeah, I was actually I was in Red's office when he phoned him,
okay.
Sounds like they promised to do that.
and they promised to do the air exchange.
Yeah, so
Okay.
And
And
then
that's
we'll,
good start.
right,
good
and
start.
then we'll
Oh, yeah.
follow up with the rest of it after.
Yeah.
Everybody in agreement with that? Sir?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Question period. Any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Nothing online, no. Communications, anything stand out for anybody? Unfinished business, the 2020 Township Christmas Social. What are your thoughts?
I would, unfortunately, with the second wave, the way it's going, and having the staff having to start planning for it and everything like that, I would have to say no to it right now.
Yeah, we don't know where this is gonna go.
No.
Yeah,
It's all new territory, so.
I totally agree with that.
you don't want them working, trying to plan the Christmas party, and there's not a chance for it. So, you know what? That's just
I mean, in all fairness to any caterer that we make, we can't let them know now. It's
Yeah.
too late.
I mean, we
Everybody
can,
in agreement that we'll forego for this year?
yeah, and we'll have conversation later on about if there's anything we can do
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay.
for sure.
Okay, everybody's in agreement? Thank you. The draft feeding of wildlife bylaw. And obviously this came about because of our problems with pigeons and hand bears, and we did not have a bylaw specifically for anything like this. So we looked around, and I believe we were given a bylaw or a copy of other places, and this is what we've come up with for our community. And what's everybody's feelings on it?
Sounds good.
Do we all feel that we need something like this to try and curtail some of the problems that we're having?
Yes.
No, I'm definitely for the bylaw, and actually, I'm maybe even add one more little line in on it. Section 3, the exemptions. Right under bird feeders using bird feed only between the period of November 1st to April 30th. They're saying you can use the bird feed at that point in time. Do we have to add something in there if you notice the pigeon problem, feeding out of your bird feeder, please discontinue. I don't know.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the bylaw officer also with that when she was looking at this draft bylaw over here, and part of her suggestion again was that some people like to feed songbirds over winter, so that particularly if it is a birdhouse, pigeons seem to not go for that because they can't sit on the, the bird feeder. Yeah. The bird feeder, they can't sit on it. They only like to sit on the ground when eating. So I'm not a pigeon expert, so don't quote me fully on that.
No, I don't think any of us are. And there's people out there that feed put a suet ball out for the whiskey jacks. I mean, we're not. I mean, it's got to be clear that we're not.
We're not against wildlife. We're
No.
trying to control
Nuisance.
We're just trying
the
to.
nuisance.
We're just trying to clean up the
And,
nuisance stuff.
this is a draft bylaw. If we were to pass it and later on we see that maybe something could be added, nothing to stop us from doing that at a future date, but
Yeah.
I would think this is a start anyway,
Yeah, for sure.
if everybody's in agreement. How do you feel?
I think we need it. We may never have to enforce it, but we need it.
And that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not about enforcement, it's trying to.
To be
It's another tool in the toolkit. You hope you don't have to take it out.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good way of
Right
putting
now,
it.
you could just say stop feeding the birds, and someone can say why, and you can say, well, because you need something.
There is criteria and facts around this that if you control the feed and the birds, don't congregate as much. Any
Also-
feelings? I'm sorry, Dane. Go ahead.
Also, that section 3, which you're looking at, just to recall, I was also a bit, what do you say, uneasy also with the winter, thing going on there, because I was thinking now pigeons may have like year-round food for them to stay, but it all together comes down to balance, like you're saying, how far is too much when you put any sort of restriction. You don't want to.
I mean, exactly.
Go
Yeah,
into
you can,
freedoms.
the bylaw officer can have conversation with somebody at that point in time if it's an issue.
Exactly. And that's the thing is most people want to cooperate to.
Oh,
resolve the
definitely.
problems.
Definitely.
So that's exactly the point.
Well,
yeah.
is there an issue with feeding wildlife in this community other than birds, pigeons,
Really, it's
bears?
Well, when that three-legged fox was running around, I seen people feeding it right, or the fox eating right out of their hand. Now it's like, I mean, it was good and
But is that-
whatever, but
Is that, I mean, normally people with any kind of common sense would understand that feeding a fox is risky,
Right.
risky business. So, I mean, if we can appeal to people's common sense rather than another bylaw,
well, that's
then would that not be another way to go?
I certainly think the education piece is a good part of it. But again, just back to the other point, it's the bylaw I think makes a clear stance with regards to the township's perspective on seriousness, considering a fully developed tool to specifically address pigeons and bears. They're the two main things that we're trying to figure out this year. And I think, again, with pigeons and bears, we need every tool in the toolbox.
Well, is feeding bears an issue? Is it a problem?
I don't think it's, you're right, I don't think it's necessarily feeding for bears. More or less, it's, they can smell the cooking in the garbage.
I don't know, I think it's just another, tool that we have in the toolbox. I don't necessarily wanna use it. You don't necessarily wanna use it, it's, you go up to somebody and tell them, quit feeding the birds, they're gonna tell you whatever, and at least if you have a bylaw, you can say, look, come on, let's, and it's part of the learning issue, we have a bylaw here it is. And you show them and hopefully that's the end of it.
I think it's, personally, it's no different than the land maintenance bylaw. You know, like, we want you to try and keep your property clean, clear of derelict vehicles, but if somebody refuses, there's nothing we can do about it, basically. You know, if they refuse to do it, then, okay, now we have to adopt a bylaw imposing fines, which that's not, to me, that's not the point of the bylaw.
Not at all.
But if you refuse to do it, now we have a tool to, and I think it's the same with this, like we want to educate people, we want to let them know that this can be bad, it's not good for the community, but if that's all we do is educate them and they refuse to do it, there again, there's not much we can do about it. But with this bylaw, at least we can say, well, if you don't want to comply, you know, then now you're going against a bylaw that we do have.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
You know, and enforcement is, personally, the last thing I want to see. We really just want people to comply and, you know, listen to us that, you know, feeding the pigeons is not a good thing. But if they refuse to listen, then, well, now we've got another tool to.
Well, yeah, and you're making sense, of course, but we need people to understand where we're coming from. Like,
yes, for sure.
You're
and I agree with you too. To put a bylaw against everything that we ever want to talk about. No, I certainly don't agree with that either.
Right.
But I do believe we're in a position now where we have to take the next step because it's getting pretty serious. Yeah, any other comments, Dan? Please.
Well, it's just,
I appreciate it.
no, I understand you have to, if it's a problem, and that's why I'm asking the questions.
Yes.
Is this a problem in our community? And if it is, and it's getting worse, then we absolutely have to take steps. But again, the other side of that is we need to show where we're coming from and
Exactly.
why we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's important that people understand that it's not just haphazard or it's off the cuff. It's like
we're not doing this just.
I mean, you did a good job of explaining, you know, where we stand or
I think,
we're certainly not trying to, you know, make our citizens upset with us, or that's not the intent at all. We're trying to help everybody, hopefully.
I think our bylaw officer approaches it that way that you explained it anyway, Dave.
Yes, yeah.
I think she does a
very good job at that, yeah.
Yeah, and she's not out to write a ticket or anything, she's just.
Any other questions on that then, folks? Everybody's okay with the draft bylaw then? We'll move ahead with it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, since there's no other business, I believe. So we will be going back in camera.